So, good afternoon, it's 3 o'clock. It's Joe and Mike's virtual tour, award-winning virtual tour. We're here in the East Princess Street Gardens. So we're going to take a little walk around the gardens and we'll walk across the other side. So we're in the south side of the gardens. Hopefully we'll walk across to the north, because on the north side the Winter Wonderland has already started. So the Christmas market is open here in Edinburgh. And we're going to take you a little tour and just pull out some of the buildings we walk past and give you some stories as well.
I'll just come in and say hello as well.
Yeah.
So both of us
both
here. It's cold, and Joe is, you can see, is improving.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. I've got my shoes on today because it's a wee bit chilly for a kilt today, so I thought I'd put my tartan shoes on. And if you're interested, this is the World Peace tartan that I'm wearing.
Yeah.
So this is the World Peace tartan. # World Peace tartan. I'll talk a wee bit more about that. It was actually designed for the visit of the Dalai Lama to Scotland, so it has got a connection to the Dalai Lama. I want to start actually as one of these quirky things, Mike, that people when they come to Edinburgh, because just behind me, hopefully you're picking up the Balmoral Hotel.
I'm going to do my special technique here.
Okay.
See if it's going to work. See if it's going to work.
That's the Balmoral, right there. So the Balmoral Hotel, if you look at it, you might see the clock. Now, we start at 3 o'clock, but have a look at the clock above the Balmoral Hotel. The Balmoral Hotel clock is generally 3 minutes early, sometimes 4. And it's early for a very, very good reason. So it's fast, but it's fast for a very good reason, because the hotel is directly above the train station, Waverley Station. And the good people of Edinburgh don't want you to miss your train. So they keep the clock 3 minutes fast, always. So never set your clock to the Balmoral Hotel clock. It is always wrong. But then you're guaranteed to catch your train on time. And of course in here is where J.K. Rowling wrote her last book. So there is a suite in here called the J.K. Rowling's Suite. And it's a 5-star hotel. Great grill room in there. And a great little bar in there. Highly recommend it. And the views. If you ever, I'll wait for the wee truck to pass, it's live. If you ever get invited to any do's in here, when you go to the rooms they have here have got spectacular views right across to the castle. And if you can get a ticket for the New Year's festivities and see the fireworks, or even for during the festival fireworks, it's a great place to go.
I'm just going to add something, and before I do that, I just want to show you my new gloves. And they slightly match my hat here, but I'll tell you, they're fingerless gloves, and they're great. They're really warm, especially on a day like this. And Joe's talked about the Balmoral Hotel. I just want to add something. It was refurbished. It used to be called the North British Hotel, North British Railway Company.
British, yeah.
But in 1991, it went through a refurbishment, and Sean Connery opened it. Mm-hmm. And if you stay in the Balmoral Hotel, you will have a picture of Sean Connery in your bathroom.
Sean Connery. One of Edinburgh's favourite sons. Let's take a wee walk. We'll keep on moving because I want to keep our blood going here, because it is a wee bit cold. Maybe we can just pick it over on another side of the gardens here. You'll see the Scott Monument. We're going to talk about that. You'll see the Christmas lights as it gets, the light fades. You're going to see the Christmas lights coming on a wee bit more. There's a fun fair here. Edinburgh's Winter Wonderland is quite famous throughout the UK and also throughout Europe. We get a lot of flights coming in here from Scandinavia. And we got a lot coming down from Iceland. And I once had a group of Norwegians who came over here in the middle of the Christmas and New Year festivals. And they actually come over here because it's a lot cheaper. They can do a lot of Christmas shopping here and they can send it back because the krona, you get so much, you can buy much more for your krona than you can for your pound. So they love to come shopping over here as well. But it's very, very popular.
Yeah, before you move on a bit, Joe, I just wanted to point out Jenner's, and I'm getting into this technique here. I'm going to try and do this once again. This building here is Jenner's department store. And that goes way back to the 19th century. It was a drapery store, and there's a bit of a tradition in Edinburgh. It was like the Harrods of the north. And it went on fire, sadly, and was redone in the 1890s, Jenner's. And it's very distinctive because it's got that sign, Jenner's, in gold lettering, which the present owner was able to get back of the owner before, who was going to just take it and not let it go back to be there or remain. And there was a huge outcry from the people,
citizens.
wasn't there? There was,
yeah. I mean, it is an iconic institution. It's also famous. You used to say this is where the Morningside ladies would meet for tea in the Jenner's Cafe. But it went over to the House of Fraser, and the House of Fraser got bought over by that crook.
Sports Direct.
Sports Direct. And I mean, ran it into the ground basically. And but then it's been bought over by a Scandinavian guy, Swedish guy, and is bringing it back to its original. So I mean, he's invested a lot of money in it. So hopefully we'll get the old lady back again, because it is a spectacular store. It's a great place to be right in the middle of Princes Street. And it's got a lot of affection for the citizens of Edinburgh.
Yeah. And this festival goes on right through Christmas and into the New Year for over several weeks.
It's on to the 6th. I think it's the 6th of January.
6th of January, yeah. And one of the things that happened in 2002 was a couple were on the big wheel, which you can maybe see through the trees there, and a gentleman proposed to his lady, and they got engaged at the top of the big wheel in Edinburgh in 2002.
Yeah.
So a very special moment for them, and it was Christmas back then.
And it's quite good at actually using the gardens, because they used to have the ice rink down here as well, but they've moved the ice rink to another part of the town, so they kind of spread it, because it got so big, they've had to spread the festival out to other parts of the town. So they bring in George Street, they bring in St Andrew's Square. I don't know if they're using the West Gardens this year, but they're getting back to the pre-pandemic level, which is great for the city as well. And hopefully we'll welcome quite a number of the tourists back for it, and hopefully it'll be a good attraction.
Yeah, it's quite a big event. People come especially to Edinburgh for this, and for the market and for the attractions. And over on the other side, on the West Gardens, there is Santa Land, for the smaller people, and there's the official Edinburgh's Christmas Santa, who is worth meeting up with in his grotto. So
didn't they also? They used to have the reindeers that would take the kids on little reindeer rides on the West Gardens as well.
It did. And there's the Scott Monument.
Looking great in the skyline.
And that, of course, it goes back to about the 1860s, I think, when it was finally finished, and 200 feet high, and 61.5 metres for our European thinkers, metric thinkers, and I think it's 287 steps to the top, and if you manage it to the top, you get a certificate
when you come down.
And it's in what's called the Gothic style of architecture. And Sir Walter Scott, he's a favourite author of mine, and the 24 novels and 10 poetry books he actually wrote, and some of our favourite ones, Heart of Midlothian, that's a good one.
I love it.
Ivanhoe and Rob Roy.
And the whole Waverley novels.
Waverley novels.
And of course the Waverley novels are important because Waverley Station is named after his novels. I think it's unique in that it's the only station it's named after books, and also the Waverley Bridge here as well.
That's right, I know.
So the Waverley Bridge connects the old town to the new town.
Yeah, in fact the Waverley Bridge is just there, and you can see the wee family there, but just behind them, and I don't know if that's a good idea, this finger pointing, but I'm going to do it again. It's just down there, it's Waverley Bridge. There you go. And that is a connection between the old and the new town,
And of course, if you go up the Scott Monument, there are 3 different floors on it, and each floor tells different stories of the different books. And there's a big monument, the whole building. At the core of it, underneath it, there's a statue of Walter Scott with his favourite dog, and it's designed by Steele. We talked about Steele last week when we talked about the pig's ear on Bucephalus. So he designed that, but lots of other sculptors all the way up. There's about another 80 or 90 sculptures all the way up. Bringing up the characters of the books, and there's a whole plethora of different sculptors who were men and women, who were engaged to design these. It's a great place to go, and it's a lovely building. I love it. A lot of people come here and say it looks like a rocket ship, and it used to be the tallest building in the world dedicated to an author.
Yeah.
But now it's the second tallest. Where's the tallest one, Mike?
It's Jose Marte, and it's in Havana.
Havana, Cuba.
Cuba.
I was there
yeah.
2 years ago and I saw it. So I can personally verify, it is taller, just a bit taller than the Scott Monument.
I'm just taking a wee view of this because we've had a question where we are, and this is Princess Street Gardens.
Yeah, we're in the East Gardens.
East Gardens, and that building is the Bank of Scotland, designed by a famous architect called David Bryce.
Yep.
And the Bank of Scotland is Scotland's oldest bank, but that is not the original building. That's a 19th century building there. But what if you look down, you'll see there was the danger of slippage. If you built a huge, heavy, big building like that, then it could subside, it could slip down, and to stop that happening, it's hugely reinforced. It's like a castle wall underneath it, holding it up so it doesn't slip. Yeah.
Well, the gardens themselves have got a story because the gardens, this used to be known as the North Loch or the Nor Loch. And this was where, and it was a defensive part of the city because this was a natural loch that was here. But in the 18th century, so the late 1700s, when they decided to build the new town on the north, they actually drained this loch. But this was it was the city's water supply to begin with, but it was it was stagnant, it was stank, it was disease-ridden. But over, just further along, if you go further west, there was a fresh water supply coming in. When they drained this loch here, they actually found quite a number of bodies at the bottom. A lot of people said it was to do with the witch trials. If you were accused of being a witch here in Edinburgh, you were taken down to the Nor Loch, or the North Loch, and your hands were tied to your feet and you were thrown in. If you floated to the top, then you thought you were definitely a witch because you were doing what was known as a witch's swim. And if that was the case, you were taken up to Edinburgh Castle and you were burnt at the stake. But if you sunk to the bottom, you were innocent. You're also dead.
A no-win situation.
A no-win. So if anybody accuses you of being a witch in Edinburgh, get out of town. It's a no-win situation. But one of the stories that I've got here is about a guy called George Sinclair, Mike.
Yeah.
This is going back to the 1620s. That George Sinclair was accused of incest with his two sisters. And the punishment was they were put into a big chest. They were drilled holes into the chest, and the three of them were put inside this chest, and they were thrown into the loch. And of course, naturally drowned.
Yeah.
So in the 1800s, when they were doing some renovation just a little bit further to the west, the chest was actually found, and there were 3 skeletons found inside the chest.
Oh, that is just
punishment.
Incredible.
Yeah. I know. I mean, isn't it? Yeah.
Incredible. You feel sometimes, the history just comes a bit too close when you hear of things like that.
Yeah.
But I'd like to tell you something about Scotland and Christmas.
Yeah.
Because it was illegal to celebrate Christmas in the reign of King James, our favourite king, James VI.
James VI. We love James VI.
The first of England.
Yeah.
And it was because it had links with a pagan festival and its foundations in what was called Yule, Y-U-L-E. Mm-hmm. And Christmas was not a holiday in Scotland up until 1958. And I can barely remember, give my age away now, but my dad, who would be working on Christmas Day.
Yep.
And Boxing Day was not a holiday in Scotland until 1974. And it was this law, this thoughts against the celebration of a festival, but it is connected with another connection, Mary Queen of Scots.
Oh yeah.
And it's all things that happen around the winter solstice, what happen around the shortest day, when people are wanting to conquer darkness. And this is a connection too with the Yule log, where I think of the group of people now, Stonehenge, who are they? Druids, who would burn this log, symbolic of being able to conquer darkness in the middle of winter. And Mary Queen of Scots celebrated what was called the Feast of the Bean. In 1563, where she had a big party at Holyrood Palace and have all her friends and courtiers and servants and everything, and they had a cake, and in the cake there was a bean hidden, and whoever discovered the bean would be crowned king or queen. And it happened to be the case one of the maidservants found it and dressed up in the clothes of the queen and became queen for that time.
For the day.
So there was also, this is all connected with importing decorations into your house, and what Robert Ferguson, a poet, called the daft days, when people were so conscious of darkness and they just wanted to, it goes back to when people thought the sun was the wheel in which all life revolved, and hence wheel, Yule, apparently could have been a derivation of wheel in terms of sun as well. Yeah.
And I like that idea going back to the. If we just move on a wee bit.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of the bean feast, because similarly at Christmas time you would make a Christmas cake and then you would hide some threepenny bits or sixpenny pieces or whatever into the, and so if you were lucky you would find the coin. You'd also break your teeth, but but they used to put money, coins, little coins into the Christmas puddings as well, traditionally. And I think you mentioned that Christmas wasn't celebrated a lot in Scotland. Still to this day there are communities up in the northwest of Scotland that still do not celebrate Christmas at all. I'm thinking specifically of the United Free Church, where they still link it to the paganism of with the pagan associations, because they just don't follow it. They don't put up Christmas trees, and there was always these stories when it comes to Christmas about some headmasters who don't allow them to bring Christmas trees in, and there's no decorations allowed, and they just seem to poo-poo everything about Christmas. And you say that, but the big holidays in Scotland tended to be New Year's Day and the day after, so the January the 1st and January the 2nd, which are still bank holidays and national holidays here in Scotland, although I don't think that January the 2nd is a bank holiday in England. In Scotland it still is a bank holiday.
Once again, it just shows you, and there's a quite a nice view of the wheel at the moment.
Yeah.
Looking quite vivid as the light is beginning to fade now, and looking quite fine.
Yeah. We'll try and get a wee bit closer.
A little bit closer to that.
But as we go along here, we're going to pull at some of the galleries here that are on Princes Street, which I highly recommend anyone when they come to Edinburgh. I always recommend going in here. We've got the Scottish National Gallery, and then in front of it we have the Royal Scottish Academy. Both of them are beautiful galleries. The National Gallery of Scotland is free entry, and it has some wonderful stuff in there. Mike, you probably know it a lot better than I do, but there's some great exhibitions in here of some of the old masters, and some of the stuff we do share with London, so there is an exchange goes on between London and Edinburgh. But I particularly love the Scottish Gallery in here, where you go and see some of the original Scottish artists. They have a whole gallery to themselves. But I highly recommend a visit. The buildings themselves were designed by, I know it's going to be
Playfair.
William Playfair. And there's one picture that I particularly love in here, and it's actually a picture of the one at the front being built, and Playfair is actually in the actual picture himself. And that's the one. And so actually having it painted, it's almost like a live documentary being painted while Playfair was still alive. And of course Playfair was quite a prolific architect here in Edinburgh. He's responsible for a lot of the buildings here. But you can see the Greco-Roman style we have here, and it kind of lends itself to the sobriquet, or the nickname that Edinburgh used to get as being the Athens of the North.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people think it got the Athens of the North because of the buildings, but that's not quite true. It was called Athens of the North because of the topography, because of the way the castle was built on a rock, kind of like Athens. So all the young dilettantes who had time on their hand would go on a European tour, and they would see the similarity of Edinburgh with its old town, with the crowning of the castle. And when they started to build the new town of Edinburgh, they were looking for a specific style, and so they actually opted for the Greco-Roman style. And so it kind of, the city fathers made a decision that a lot of the new buildings, particularly if they do with art or education, were going to be in the Greco-Roman style. Whereas if it was going to be for adoration purposes, they opted for the Gothic. So we have these two styles. The Edinburgh is great Gothic, but it also does great neoclassical stuff as well. There's some repairs getting on because they're extending the National Gallery at the moment. They're doing some repairs underneath it, giving us more gallery space.
I think it's for the Scottish collection, they're trying to have more space because there's a lot of paintings they can't show.
Yeah.
They've got a huge collection, national collection. Are these silver birches? I was just wondering there.
Yeah, just here.
Joe, yeah.
Yep. And look, this is a good view. You can see the station.
Yeah.
It's well hidden generally, but you get a good view of the main station.
It's a wonderful view, yeah. And with the birches and the
Silver birch here.
autumnal colours changing, it's really nice.
And you can hear the trains in the background.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to let people, our viewers, into what I would think would be a national secret, Mike. That the National Gallery of Scotland has got the best toilets on Princes Street.
Yes.
So if you're ever on a walking tour, and never let a good toilet pass you by, is my good advice as a blue badge guide. Always know where your loos are.
Yeah.
And the galleries here have got great toilets. So when I'm taking walking tours and people are needing a loo, I try and make it because they're big, they're clean, they're airy, and they're warm.
Yeah.
You know. So always never let a good loo pass you by.
Well, we're getting a question about your leg, Joe, how you're doing, and where you got your trousers from as well.
See what?
Where you got your trousers from?
Where I got my trousers
Yes,
from? The trousers were designed, were made, and they're made up at the Scottish Woolen Mill, or the Edinburgh Woolen Mill, which is up near Edinburgh Castle. So they're actually, handmade, as it were, or hand designed. So got made to measure is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Got the tie to match as well. So I've got the kilt to go as well. I've got the full outfit.
That's a piece.
Because I'm kind of an ambassador for the World Peace Tartan. So hashtag World Peace Tartan or hashtag WPT.
It's a nice,
it's a lovely, it's a very
colours.
cheerful.
Yeah.
It's very cheerful. It's one of the newest ones. And there's a few new ones have been designed. It's also when tartans are designed, you have to go through a process. You can't just throw some colours together and get a tartan. You have to go through a legal process to get your tartan registered.
Yeah.
And it can take time. You can get your own tartan designed if you wish, but you have to go through the process. It's not just throwing, putting some colours on a checkerboard and making it up as you go along. You can do it if you wish, but it wouldn't be an official tartan. If you want your tartan registered, then go through the process itself.
I'd just like to say that the physical touring is coming back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Joe, with his leg, isn't able to do as much at the moment as he normally do, but I've just finished a tour with American visitors, a family there just the weekend, and it was just so lovely. It was just so fabulous. Joe would just be feeling
I know, I'm just
me
green with envy and jealous.
I know, it was just great. It was just a great feeling to be back.
Rub it in, Mike.
Doing the physical touring. We'll take a little, change the subject quickly. We'll take another view of that Edinburgh's Christmas big wheel there. And this is, remember, that's where they got, this couple got engaged at the top of it. That must have been well planned and well thought out beforehand. They can't quite go down on one knee in the restricted little compartments up there.
And it's interesting at the moment that, so we have the German market here, and it's interesting that Austria and Germany are going into lockdown.
Yeah.
So we've probably got one of the few German markets in Europe
Yes.
that are still going,
Well, you can buy all your hamburgers, frankfurters, German sausage. I noticed you can even get haggis.
Lebkuchen and Stollen and Stollencake.
Yeah. But this area too, Joe, is normally sometimes used as part of the festival, but it's been staged down, hasn't it, because of COVID? So there's not as many things.
Well, this used to be the ice rink.
Yeah.
But they moved the ice rink to St Andrew's Square.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll be on this year as well. But if you just whiz around here, you can see the National Galleries. There's a lovely cafe in here, which I would I highly recommend to people as well.
And this thing about the Nor Loch, because it was built as a defence for the castle, by, I think it was James the First, who maybe put the Norwalk in, where it was just a little.
It was a stream that
river,
was going through it.
Stream,
yeah, and so they blocked it off to make the lock as well. But remember, I mean, I think we've told the stories before that back in the 15th, 16th century, there was no such thing as running water. Before they got the running water coming in from the hills on the south of the city. But no running water meant they had no toilets, of course, so people had to use potties.
Yeah.
Now, we've mentioned before that in the old town, some of these buildings were 10, 12 stories high. So these were the original skyscrapers. And you can probably get an idea if you look at the old town now. So imagine yourself, Mike, you're in, say, the 10th floor of one of these buildings, right? It's middle of January. Imagine there's a blizzard blowing outside, okay, which is not unusual. You'll have a blizzard blowing outside. You're in the 10th floor. You've got rickety dark stairs to go up and down to get to your building. Okay, no electric lights, no luxuries, and your potty is full. What are you going to do with your potty, Mike?
I know.
You opened up the window and you shouted "Gardez-le" and you threw it out. So literally, you threw everything. Gardez-le comes from the French. It could be gare à l'eau or gardez-l'eau, beware of the water. But it wasn't just the water that was thrown out. It was all the contents of human excrement, your animal excrement, all your peelings from your potatoes and your carrots and everything. All your waste and refuse would get thrown out the window. Now, there was an act passed, I think it was in the 1600s, where it was all done at the same time. So people knew that you could only throw your ordure out at a certain time. And this was about 8 o'clock at night, the windows would open up, everybody shouting "Gardez-le," and you had to take cover. If you didn't take cover, of course, some people coming up the pubs, the whole thing, being a little bit inebriated, would hear this "Gardez-le" and they'd be looking up. And of course, what would happen when you looked up? It'll land in your face. So I guess that's where you get the expression of being shit-faced, isn't it?
Yes. I know. I was. If you lived at the top of the town, you were fortunate. But down at the bottom, gravity, it finds its own way.
Yeah.
Of course. And
of course, it would find its way down to this loch because water, as you say, goes down to its lower level here. And of course, it is known to rain occasionally in Edinburgh. So all that waste that's thrown out every day would get washed down into the Norloch here. And this loch became full of, it was stagnant, it was stanky, it was disease-ridden. And of course, they had the bodies in here that people were being tested for their witchcraft. I mean, can you imagine having this? Would you want to swim in that? This is going to be a great defence for your city. This stagnant.
Yeah.
You can just imagine the smell that come off of this loch that was here. But mind you, look at how fertile the gardens are.
I know, and how green. The thing is, Edinburgh's 7 volcanic hills, as we say a lot, and it had no water as such.
Yep.
It was stagnant water, so that's what makes it beautiful. It's funny to say that, because that was a lot of distress to people back in history and plague and disease, but that is what makes Edinburgh appear so unusual, because it's not got a river going through it, which most major cities have got.
That's right.
So, and with a castle instead of a river.
And they used to haul, there was a freshwater stream that would come in to fill up the loch over in the west, and they would haul the water up. Before they dug the well, they used to haul the water up from the freshwater side, where the freshwater was coming in, to this big stagnant pond here.
Yeah.
You can almost imagine the relief of the people in the 1700s when they actually drained this. That must have been such a relief to get it drained.
Oh, the smell and the miasma, as they used to call it, which was all that mistiness of
plague was
and
endemic.
Fumes,
I mean, the rats,
and things like that.
Yeah. We have these photographs of the doctors wearing the that's why they got called quacks, because they used to wear those big beaks because they thought and they would fill it full of herbs to prevent the odours. They thought the disease was carried through by all the odours.
Scary image.
I know.
So
I know. There's a couple of people I wanted to say hello to. They've got some friends that work for Spectra, who are over in the United States at the moment, I believe, and they're at a big exhibition over there. And Mike and I both work with this company called Spectre on occasions, and they're over there selling the virtues and selling everything about Edinburgh, and hopefully we'll be seeing the guys quite soon. So I want to say hello to our Spectre guys as well. And of course I did say that I'd say a big hello to Fern, who's coming up for her 97th birthday in Arizona. And I think, Mike, you're in communication with Fern as well?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
thanks for all the lovely messages, Fern.
Yeah.
Enjoying keeping in touch with you, and maybe you met Joe, of course, but you're meeting me virtually, so that's great. And it's great to meet you. So coming up the hill, and we're coming into the thick of it, let's say, where people are entering Edinburgh's Christmas. You can see filtering in through quite a narrow gateway, and I think what they do is they keep a count. They have a counter sometimes, so that they can monitor how many people are in a limited space at one time, don't they?
Yeah. And of course it builds and builds, because it's not just Christmas, because the big festival here is still the New Year. So as the festival progresses, things get closer and closer to New Year. It kind of expands, and Edinburgh is one of the popular destinations for New Year, because this whole place gets turned into like a big dance arena. So they get traditional dance, get traditional music. The whole city centre is taken over for the New Year. In the Princes Street Gardens, in the main gardens, they have a bandstand there, and they have various musicians playing. They've got stages all around the city. And at midnight, all the fireworks come off, mainly the castle, but they use the other hills. And it is one of the big destinations especially for the young people in Great Britain and from out Europe. And a lot of Australians come up here as well. And it is the place to be in New Year's Eve. I've got tickets for the gardens this year, so I'm quite chuffed.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, that's really good.
So we're going to go for a nice dinner in the area, and then we're going to go see the fireworks go off at midnight as well.
You see this little hut, Joe. This is a bit of my history. I used to work for this company.
Yeah.
Edinburgh Bus Tours. I can highly recommend it for open top bus tours. It's great. And some of the time I used to be in here selling tickets, and I know what is behind there. It's a bit like Doctor Who's TARDIS. It's something else. But I won't say too much. I won't give away trade secrets. But if you want to come to Edinburgh, and of course, think about hiring a Blue Badge guide. Think about Joe and I, and we can give you all this. But if you want a quick and a nice day overview, sightseeing tour, these open-top buses are really good.
They're very good, and it gives you a good orientation of the city. So once you've done your orientation, then you know, because you can jump on and jump off. The ticket lasts for 24 hours as well, so you can jump on and jump off anywhere. And there's so many things to see here that are around the city. And I do recommend the open deck bus. Shall we just finish off?
Just have another little overview and wander out.
So just to turn some people's stomachs here at some of the speed of these things going on. I don't know.
Some of these big roundabouts and funfair type things going on here. Very close to the Scott Monument. I wonder what Sir Walter Scott would be thinking.
He'd be turning in his grave. I know. But the kids love it, you know, and it does bring it in, and got the funfair here, and it starts to build as the festival continues. So we just take over here.
Before we finish, one final thing, which is quite significant. And you see the light and the clock of the Balmoral, but you know that we are hopefully getting on top of COVID. But if you look down here, I don't know if you can see it, there's a COVID vaccination bus down there, and it's a mobile centre. I don't know if you can see it, guys. Probably getting more.
It's a double-decker bus.
Yeah, it's a double-decker bus.
We can walk down.
We can walk down a little closer to it.
We can finish off down there. I get my booster tomorrow.
Yeah. I've had mine. I had it a couple of weeks ago. Finish off with another little view of that going around there, scaring everybody to death there. What you do for fun. And
I think if you come down here, you might get a great view of the castle through the trees with the sunset coming on here.
Yeah, you've got all this, these lights and set against the Edinburgh skyline, which you can't beat. And
here you get a great view of the gallery.
Just look at that. Just look
stunning.
at the castle with the the sun going down there in the distance. In fact, we might even get a better view of that if we go down a little bit further.
And the old town.
Yeah.
You got the new college there.
Right. Another little view of this.
Got the bank.
I mean, look at that.
Look at the sunset. Now.
Can you beat that? And
Perfect timing.
And can you beat this as I shouldn't say this as boasting,
I
as
know.
a place to live? I mean, Joe and I are so lucky to be able to live in a place like this.
What's that expression we use here? If we were cheese, we would eat ourselves.
Yes.
Now, Mike, if you just take a sweep around the
We'll
other
take a
part of
little sweep around the architecture.
the architecture here, the old town.
Yeah.
And there's great mixture of some of the old and the new, and some of these buildings have got rooftop bars in them, rooftop restaurants. There's someone saying hi. Got rooftop bars, rooftop restaurants.
Mind
You
yourself,
see the
Joe.
crown of St Giles
Yeah.
up there. And this is where you'll get a great view from here over to...
Oh yeah, and this is this Waverley bridge.
It's the Waverley
I think we're
Bridge.
going back to about the later part of the 19th century with this bridge. It says, what does it cost for a blue badge? Louise is asking, blue badge tour with you both. Sometime when we're here, we can...
Yep.
Yeah, well, we'll get in touch with that. We can actually reply to that comment or post a link or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, to this...
Because we do have half day and full day. We also do extended tours. We also do driver guiding. So it depends really on what you're looking for in terms of, because we specifically design tours for people. And if we can't accommodate your time, and if the time doesn't suit you, we can certainly find other people who will fit in with the time, because we are part of a network of Scottish tour guides. So we're all members of the Scottish Tour Guides Association. It's our professional body. And there's about 300 of us around the country.
Yeah.
And so Mike and I are quite proud to represent the STGA when we do our tours every week. And we wear a badge with honour. We do wear a badge with honour. And it's great, it's right next to the station, so any tourists are coming in, haven't got their jab, they can get the jab here. Or as we call it, jag here.
Yes.
It's jag in Scotland, jab in England.
Yeah, and I think, of course, being Scottish, I'm bound to say this, that jag is more descriptive about what is actually happening.
Yeah.
Whereas a jab is sometimes just like a push or
I always
something.
think a jab doesn't pierce the skin. If something's jaggy, like a jaggy nettle, it pierces your skin, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like a thistle is jaggy. It's not jabby, it's jaggy.
Jaggy. That's
Prickly.
And just to enlighten you over there, that booking office is not a booking office, it is a pub.
Yeah.
So you can go in there, and but it's got an interior that's very similar to being a
But if you
station
look at
booking
you
office.
can get the sky now.
Get an
Mike,
even
and
better
see the
sky
sunset.
over here. See if I can get this. Okay.
And
Patty's posted a link, thank you, to my website, but Scotland with Joe is Joe's website.
yeah, Scotland with Joe.
Yeah, so there, I think we're going to probably say cheerio, are we?
Yeah, because the light's going to fade quite dramatically now.
Yeah.
I think we've done a nice little tour of the East Gardens. Oh, we've got a wee cutie here. What's this one's name?
Daisy.
Daisy. Hello, sweetheart. Hello.
Hello, Daisy.
Hello, Daisy. Cute as a button. What kind is she?
She's a cross between a dachshund and a miniature poodle.
Oh, look at
very
you.
cute.
You're a
Yeah.
bundle. You're a bundle.
So a great note to finish on, and
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to, thanks to Joe coming out and he's improving with his walking, which is great, and thank you for coming on.